Rice cookers.
Well, holy shit, we're halfway to monetization. 500 subscribers doesn't seem like a lot probably to most people, but to me, I'd never thought that I'd have 500 people, you know, checking in every week just to see how this project's going. So thank you all very much, and let's get into it. Let's build a charge harness. Let's have a look at the engine that was originally in the car, the B20 all-wheel drive automatic. In this chassis, obviously the intake manifold was against the firewall and not the radiator. So we have an alternator here with that line there leading to the fuse box, and then obviously bridging off from the fuse box to charge the battery. Over on this side we have the starter, which is this connection here. It runs all the way to the fuse box and battery as well. Being a right-hand drive car, the battery is on this side instead of this side. So what it looks like is that I might be able to reuse the starter cable, because on the K series the starter is down here, and which means the length to the battery is probably going to be pretty good. But we might have to remake this one. These are the cables from that engine. Alternator being on the left, I'm not sure if that matters really, and starter being on the right. So the alternator, which is this wire here, would have run down here and to the alternator, like down in there. But I need it to run all the way over there, and I don't think I've got enough length from here all the way over. But the starter, on the other hand, which is part of this wire, which runs from this terminal to the battery terminal, and then off the battery terminal it would have normally run over here onto the gearbox. But I might be able to get it run over to the K-series starter. So let's have a little look. I've got this pulled through here with the little stop here to stop me pulling too much slack through, and then it runs through underneath the intake manifold. So let's jump underneath and see how much room we've got. Right, here we are underneath. There's the starter motor, and there's the terminal for it. Just in there. And this is the cable. And by the looks of it, we have plenty of length to reuse the right-hand drive RD1 starter battery terminal side. So let's get this bolted onto that and see what we're working with. All right. I think that's finally got it in the right spot. That's in a good spot. Let's have a look up top. Here, that cable runs out from underneath the intake manifold, follows the heater core line, and then back to where it was before. Got plenty of slack here to work with, so the starter and battery positive terminal is done. Now I need to move on to the alternator. Let's just get this screwed on here. Right-hand drive solution on this car, you can reuse the RD1 terminal for the battery and the starter cable. Now I need to move on to the alternator, which is quite a bit shorter, because on the original engine I think it's just about down here somewhere. Maybe it's in here. So it only has to go down to there really. So let's see how far we can get this through here and see if it's something we can use. I highly doubt it. It's going to be a lot easier to figure this out by putting it on the alternator and then trying to get the cable to here. So get it on the alternator first, see if the terminals even match, and then we'll bring this side back over and see what we're left with. Alright, here we have the top of the alternator, and it looks like the alignment tab faces this way, which means the cable is designed to come in from this angle. Okay, pulling it back out. Start again. Alright, got these two separated because clips and sheathing and all that shit was getting in the way. Let's run this up through there. Okay, got it bolted up with the 10mm there. It runs down under the side of the intake manifold and up here, but unfortunately it just doesn't reach. I'm going to strip the K-series harness and separate the alternator plug from the starter plug and the rest of the loom, and we'll see what kind of length we're left with that. Okay, here we go. We got it separated. So the black wire, it runs all the way to your K-series fuse box, is the alternator, and taped alongside of it is this wire, which is a black and white, and that goes to the signal wire for the starter on the white loom. So that's the starter side, which we don't need because I've already got that sorted. Now let's take the now let's compare this cable with the one I've got out of the RD1 and see if we can use it. If it's not long enough, I'm going to have to chop and then splice this into the RD1. That would be the budget way to do it, or I can go out, find terminals, and create another cable that's the correct length. But I'm a cheap fucker, so I'm gonna try and use what I have here. Now remember, this is all right-hand drive stuff, so this won't necessarily be a solution for you, but it will be the same process of this to this, that to that. You know, you can follow along with that. Okay, this is the one out of the the RD1, and it's just reaches the end to about here. And if we compare that to the right-hand drive RD5, which is this one, it's from here to quite a bit off the end of the bench. So the lengthwise, this is going to work perfectly. If we have a look at the ends, so this is the side that goes to the fuse box. RD1 straight, RD5 not. So quite simply, we'll just bend this flat, chuck it in the vise really quick. It might not fit in the terminal. Might have to grind down the sides a little bit, but let's take it over the car and have a look. As you can see, it's going to work just fine. It's going to line up with that screw without any problems. So before I put it on this end, we'll put it on the alternator side. And here is the K24 charge cable off the RD5, which actually came off of this style of alternator. But as you can see from B to K series, there doesn't seem to be a hell of a lot of change on the terminals and threads and whatnot. There we go. Very nice. OEM, this is supposed to tuck back under here, so we'll try and run it the OEM route, which is down here along the bottom of the block, I think, to the bell housing. Down along the underside of the intake manifold, we got it just here. We're going to run it underneath the loom and probably alongside where this one's going. And as you can see, it runs up with plenty of slack just nicely up to the box. So let's go over to the terminal. And from down here up to here. That's exactly what I wanted to have happen. Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And with that, we have a charge harness from here. And then we have 12 volt supply to the battery from here over to here. And then off the battery, we have a starter motor wire. So the loop is complete. Let's take this one back out and completely sheathe it with some protective plastic so that there's no risk of damage happening and any weird kind of, arcing out or massive damage to the electrical system. So let's take this out and wrap it. Well, here we are. We got it all mounted up. I just sleeved the cable with the old plastic that I saved from both the RD1 and the K series loom, and this is just going to help it not get damaged and scratched or whatever, because you don't want these cables arcing out. I've run it down where the heater matrix goes to, so we've got the alternator and the starter wire, and they run down along there, out underneath, out of the way of everything, and then comes out just here. And I've got we're using a clip and a zip tie here to hold that back out of the way for when we have a radiator in here. And some of you might have noticed that we've got a new AC line hooked up, so that's good. That's making progress. Got one side hooked up, just gonna need to link up that one with this line, and we'll have AC as well. So I got a mate help me out with that, so cheers Steve. So that wraps up the charge harness. It wasn't actually that difficult at all once you start to piece it all together. Right, just to repeat it one more time, on the older fuse box you've got the starter as well as the battery terminal. So this runs out to the positive terminal, and from this positive terminal it comes out and runs to the starter motor. Now the starter motor needs a starter signal from the loom. And if you're reusing a loom from a DC5 or a what do you call them, RSX in America, you'll have to separate the loom like I did over on the bench and add that wire in separately. Now this side is the alternator itself. This is where the power comes into the distribution block and then goes to the battery, and that one's pretty simple. It runs down like I showed and then onto this terminal, and it's also going to need instructions for how and when to add more current to the charging system. So you're going to need this plug, which again is going to need to be separated from your loom, which is this one here. And normally there would be a knock sensor plug right here. For those of you who have just clicked on this video for the charge harness, I don't know if you figured it out already, but this is a K-series all-wheel drive swap for an RD1 CRV here in New Zealand. So if you're interested in seeing more on this and the progression, make sure you subscribe, because we're currently halfway to monetization, which is great. And that will allow me to do this in the future to more vehicles and spread the knowledge and all that stuff. So yeah, we'll see you on the next one. Cheers.